Welcome also from my behalf. Nice to see you so many here in the office already, and also people who are online. There's already like 48 people there, so nice to see everyone attending this talk. Today I'll be talking about how to build lovable products. And yeah, let's get started. Here we go. So yeah, my name is Annu-Maaria, and I'm working as a UX designer at Wolt. And my main primary sort of like design area is actually Wolt consumer products, and mainly the Wolt app. I don't know, some of you maybe have used that. So yeah, that's what I'm working on as a designer. And I've been at Wolt for almost 5 years already. I started with designing some other products, but for the past 3 years, I've been working with the designing of the Wolt app. At free time, I love sports, and I also love exploring the nature. So, and one of my special interests in the nature is beetles. So I have some images of beetles here that I have taken at the summertime in Finland. My latest Wolt order was from K-Market Heinola. And yeah, that's me basically. Slides are very slow. Here we go. And in addition to me, you will also see this person called Juho attending these slides here. Juho is a Wolt's mascot, and he's actually a reindeer from Lapland. Juho is a kind and caring creature, so you will see them doing some stuff on the slides going forward. They are very playful, and they love delicious food, especially donuts. And their latest Wolt order was actually donuts from Wolt Market, actually. I don't know why this is so slow. Some technical help. Yeah, and this is the agenda for today. First, I will give you a small Wolt intro, and then I will talk about the product design, and especially product design at Wolt. And then we will dive into how I think, for example, we could build lovable products. Here we go. Let's start with a video. Take that video away. Yes, I wanted to show that video because some of you maybe know us only from having delicious food, for example, delivered to the users. But actually today we deliver quite a lot more. We have retail, grocery and things like that we actually deliver. And then also we have our own Wolt Market where you can also order grocery stuff. So in addition to only restaurant food, we are now operating in delivering also those items. And if you think about the vision, what does the Wolt will become like in going up in the future? And our vision is that we actually want to deliver the whole city. So imagine being in a city and then ordering whatever you need being delivered to you within minutes. So not having to wait, for example, a couple of days to get that stuff that you need. And this is the way we actually see Wolt City. So first of all, there is the consumer. who's actually, for example, wanting to order something to eat. And then we have the merchants who actually get the consumers' orders to their services and apps, and then they prepare the food. And then we have the couriers who will come to the merchant, and then they will pick up the order and then deliver that to the consumer. And then the fourth sort of like very crucial part of our operation is also customer support, because sometimes mistakes happen. And for example, there would be something wrong with order that the user has been delivered with. And then we actually have to deal with the situation with our awesome customer support. So that's how we see the Wolt City working. What happens under the hood when this kind of like process goes from consumer to the courier delivering the product is that we actually build all those technical solutions at Wolt ourselves. So all those consumer apps, all those merchant tools that they actually use for getting those orders, and then also courier tools, and then also these operational tools that we do use to actually run the whole business. We have in all the sort of like markets that we operate, we also have local restaurant partnership managers who actually take care of that. We have like good selection in our app so that users actually find what they want to order from our app. And then we also have local courier operations who will take care that there are enough couriers on the field, and also that they have like heat bags and all the other gear that they need. So that's also very crucial part of our working. And then, yes, we have a customer support. We call them superheroes because they are really making sure that if there's any problem in the delivery process, then they will actually help everyone involved in there. This is our journey so far. So we were founded in 2014 in Finland, and then we opened in Finland first the delivery business. And then we opened year by year more countries. And our latest opening was in 2021 when we actually started offering this Wolt market as part of our offering. But yeah, we are quite a big group already. There's like over 7,000 people at Wolt already globally. We have 20 million registered users, and then also 140, even more of that, courier partners, and then also 70,000 and even more merchant partners. And we actually operate in 23 countries and in 250 cities at the moment. So we've gone a long way already. Let me change the location of that. Yes, our product team is actually consisting the people who actually built the products. There's 400 product builders, that we call them. We have different product groups, bigger groups. We have 7 of them. And then we have different sort of like product teams under those groups. I will talk a bit more about them later on. And then we have different products. This should be actually, I have a small mistake here. This should say products. Yeah, and we are building this kind of like platform with 3-sided platform. Okay. The first one is the consumer side of things that we are building, and we have the consumer mobile apps for them, and then also we have the consumer web that our users can use to actually order something. Here, and then for the merchants who actually prepare these orders, we also build tools. We have, for example, merchant app, which they use to actually taking those orders when they actually are being sent by the users. And then they prepare the food or whatever they are actually selling, and then they actually give them to the couriers. And then our courier tools, the main tool is, of course, the courier app, where they can see what is being delivered and to whom. And then also we have some operational tools behind there, for example, logistics and some other operational tools to actually make sure that this deliveries go well. And then our 4 other big groups are Wolt Market. As I mentioned, it's something that we started a couple of years back. And then we have other B2B products, for example, that are building consumer experiences for the corporate environments. We have the support group who's building those support operational tools that I was mentioning also earlier. And then also financial services, which are solutions for inbound and outbound money flows. And last year, our biggest sort of like news was from that DoorDash was actually acquiring Wolt. And what does it actually mean DoorDash is like Wolt, but it's in operating in USA, Canada, and New Zealand and Australia. And they are sort of like, we see them as a big brother of Wolt because they have like huge business there, and we are not that big yet. They are also building a last mile logistic infrastructure, so they are actually doing these deliveries like we are. So together, Wolt and DoorDash actually we have presence in 27 countries together. So we see it as together us being much bigger. So that's sort of like the main news from that. Before actually talking about the design, I also wanted to give small sort of like ideas how we actually differ from other delivery services. First of all, Wolt was started in Finland, like I said, and that was hard because population spread is sort of like very wide across the area. There is no strong takeaway or delivery culture in the country at the time when Wolt was started. And we also have high labor costs and high price sensitivity with the consumers. So how did we actually sort of like decided to tackle this problem was that we wanted to optimize our tech and operations so that we can actually operate efficiently. If we can handle Finland, then we can handle also other countries. That was sort of like the thinking behind there. The second main pillar in that one was that we wanted to build this kind of like great customer support culture. And as far as I understand, that has also been something that we have been very good at. And the third one is related to the topic of today. So we actually wanted to make people fall in love with our products. And that's why we emphasize in making lovable products. Okay, I've done some talking now. Now is your turn. I have a question here for the audience. Where did the name Wolt come from? Option number A is that the CEO's father was called Walter. Option B is founders thought it sounded fast. And option C is it's a name of a Norse god known for bravery. Any guesses? Which one is the right answer for this one? B has been suggested. C has been suggested. B. The right answer is B. So founders actually thought it sounded fast. Good job. All right, that was my Wolt intro. Then I wanted to talk about the product design in general. People who are doing the product design here, they are the faces. There's something like 35 of us. The situation is changing almost on a weekly basis. We are growing very heavily at the moment. So these are the people who are actually doing the design at Wolt, quite a big group of people. What makes me really, really happy is that these 35 people are actually from 23 different countries. So I will talk about the diversity later on my slides, and this makes me so happy because we have so many people from different countries. The spaces, the slide here means that like what are the places where our designers work. Most of the designers work in Finland, here at HQ or remotely. And then we have some designers in Germany and also in some European other countries, random countries. And then we have designers in Japan. We are also opening tech hubs in Sweden and also in Israel. So we are looking for other designers to join also from those countries. I think we have several already from Sweden. So yeah, that's where our designers are working at. And this is what our designers actually do, the main skills of our team. First of all, we have the product designers who are actually visual designers or UX emphasized designers, but they are the people who actually come up with solutions when, for example, there is a problem that we want to solve. And one very specific thing for Wolt is that we have also motion designers. We actually have several of them already, and they are actually working on the UI interactions and animations. This is also something I will also talk about later on. We have design researchers. I'm happy to say this is already in plural because we used to have only one for several years, but now we have actually two of them. So those are the people who actually identify user habits, needs, and attitudes through different kind of like user research. And then we have one UX writer who's making sure that our, for example, voice and tone follows the brand of the Wolt. the main sort of like emphasis or the goal of the design team is to actually make products that our users love. And some of you may be already familiar with this kind of like design process. It's called double diamond design process, but this is roughly what our designers follow. Of course, everybody can decide what are the methods that they use and the processes depending on the situation, but roughly you could say that every project starts by understanding like, okay, what is the situation? What is the problem that we want to solve, for example, here? What are the different problems that we have, for example, for the using the product? And then we go into deciding like, okay, among all these problems, these are the ones that we actually want to solve in this project. And then we go into development, which means that again, we are exploring and the sort of like wide range of different sort of like ways to actually solve those problems. And then at the end of that double diamond, we go towards choosing the one solution that we actually want to use for solving that specific problem that we are working with. So that's the double diamond process. Designer tools, we have Figma for designing. We use Miro, for example, for collaborating with other teams and also sketching some stuff. We use Principle and Prototype for prototyping, and then Jira for working with the developers, and then also Mixpanel and Looker for analytics, and Zoom for the obvious communications. And I have also, I want to sort of like point out that our Figma file, you can see like who are the people who are actually working there, who are actually looking at some of the design files. So you can see your colleagues there, but we also occasionally see Miki, who's our CEO, Miki Kuusi. We can also see him sometimes looking at our designs in the Figma file, and that's like super cool. He's really interested about the design stuff also. Okay, I had one more thing related to design. And I was asked to actually give some advices that if somebody in the audience would be interested about becoming a designer, how would that actually be possible? So I think that the main sort of like ways to go there is that first of all, you learn some design principles and tactics. A degree can help, but it's definitely not a requirement. Portfolio is something that, for example, our team always looks from every candidate that you have to have some kind of like portfolio that actually showcases your design skills and capabilities. Networking is a great thing. Join events like this, talk to people, and connect with other designers to actually get that path started. I think the fourth one could be that you would specialize in some specific area of design. A few years back, for example, there was people who were specializing in data visualization, for example, or designing data sort of like related products. So it may help you standing out if you have this kind of like specific design skill. Now it's the turn for the audience again. How are these job titles related to Wolt's design team? There is, for example, tram driver, research scientist, mining geologist, product manager. Option A, they are job titles of our designers' partners. B, they are job titles that our designers mostly work with. And C, they are job titles of our designers before their design career. Who would like to try? C has been suggested. Any other? Why? There should be, because C is the right answer. So they are actually job titles of our designers before they actually started doing the design work. And this is sort of like related to what I said in the previous slide. You don't have to sort of like have a degree, or you don't have to have always be a designer to actually become a designer. It's something that if you are interested about, you can always make that happen. And one funny fact from my past is that I actually used to be a mining geologist before my design career. So I'm a walking example of that. Yes. And then how do we actually build lovable products? I have 4 tenets here, and I must say that they are subjectively so chosen by me. It's not something that I can say that there's this kind of like research saying that these 4 things make actually people build lovable products. It's based on what I value and based on what I have experienced in my design career time. My first tenet is that build diverse and multidisciplinary teams. This is our structure at Wolt. So we have those bigger groups, for example, consumer and merchant and etc. And inside those bigger groups, we have teams. And then in the team, we have usually product lead, designer, engineers, and then maybe data analyst in most of the teams also. Those sort of like teams focus on solving a specific customer problem. And every team has all the resources and talent that they need to actually solve those problems that they are meant to be solving. And of course, teams collaborate closely with each other to actually stay aligned and help each other out in different situations. The main role for the product leads in this kind of like teams is to actually own the problem to be solved. So they are basically the voice of the business and the customer also in the team. And they sort of like are responsible for feature specifications, collaborating with various stakeholders, prioritization and delivery of the feature that they are working with. The most important skill or ownership of the product leads is that they actually have to provide donuts for the teams. So if, for example, if there's a major product launch, donuts must be delivered, otherwise it's not good. And our designers are the ones who actually turn those ideas into products. So they also want to figure out like what do our customers actually really want and need. They come up with some concrete solutions. Okay, we could solve this problem by this kind of like solution. And then they also make sure that things are beautiful and have a great user experience in the products that we build. And then engineers, of course, they build tangible things. So scalable, accessible, and glorious products together with everyone else also in the team. And we have backend and front-end engineers, DevOps, machine learning, and data engineers, and also security folks. And you can see some of our main technologies listed on that slide also. And then the fourth one is the data analysts or scientists that we have in the teams. And they are the ones who actually provide us the insights, like, are we doing the right thing? Are we actually solving the problem that we wanted to solve? So measuring all that thing and provide giving us proof to sort of like loving the data. So they are the ones who actually make complex simple to everyone in the team by providing that insight. And yes, I said my tenet was that building diverse teams actually makes sense in building lovable products. And the reason why I actually say that is different cultural backgrounds and skills in the team actually bring a wider range of perspectives to solve problems. So if, for example, the team wouldn't be diverse and it would be like very homogeneous, then if we are, for example, trying to understand like how could we solve a problem, the answers or the ideas might not be so varying and so much. There would be less sort of like different ideas if we wouldn't have diverse teams. If we have people with engineering skills, if we have people from different cultural backgrounds, we actually can come up with better amount of ideas and think about things in many different aspects. And this also means that we become with more creative and well thought and innovative solutions because we have different backgrounds of people in the team. So yeah, we build better products and services, and then also we have happier team members. So this is why I think that building diverse teams is very crucial in building lovable products. My second tenet is that we must support trust and ownership in product building. As I mentioned, product thinking is about solving problems. And at Wolt, our teams have both ownership and autonomy. So they have a full freedom to actually choose their technological sort of like choices. And they can also decide and be responsible of their roadmaps. They determine how they actually solve those challenges that they want to solve. And they actually decide how they build those services and products. The teams are sort of like units who can decide all of this stuff. Yes, and the team has the ownership of the whole product lifecycle. So I was talking about the double diamond earlier, but this is called triple diamond. And in addition to sort of like that problem and solution space, it also goes to outcome space in that process. I have divided this into product, taking care of the problem space, then design, taking care of the solution space, and then engineering taking care of the outcome phase. But of course, all of this overlap. Every product lead is also involved in the outcome phase, and then designers are working also with the problem space as well as the outcome. And engineers are also defining like what is the problem that we want to solve and how do we actually solve that. So it's not like there would be a wall between those processes, but everybody's involved in all of these sort of like steps. And but the basic idea is that the team itself actually decides this problem, solution, and then actually make sure that the outcome also matches with the problem and the solution that we have, the team has decided to solve. So that's the generic process. So everyone in the team, in my opinion, needs to understand the problem that we are solving. That is the key to building lovable products, because then they will also be able to have input in the sort of like the process from different perspectives and in different phases of the process to actually what the final solution is. And I must say that at Wolt, I love, for example, working with any of the products, because we have developers who are also very, very sort of like interested and passionate about the design also. So we also get design suggestions and improvement ideas from engineers, and that is something I really love. We are working as a team and we support each other on the way to actually come up with the awesome solution at the end. Here are some core principles of engineering at Wolt. So everyone can release code. There's no status blockers in the teams. We don't have software architects. Architecture is a shared responsibility between the teams. They also, like I said, decide on the roadmap items, features, and prioritization inside the team. And we also deploy often and aim to sort of like ship product in production increments of 1 week. So because shipping is faster if you actually make them in a smaller things at one time. So those are those core principles. And yes, I think that the best product decisions are made by the teams. That's why my second tenet was about the autonomy of the teams, that we must have this trust and build in the teams to actually come up with the best solutions for the problems. And it's not somebody from the higher management who can actually decide for the teams. If teams own this, then I think we can build lovable products. My third tenet is about obsessing with our products and users. And as we discussed earlier, our main user groups are consumers, and then we have the courier partners, we have the support people, and then we also have the merchants who are making the food or other retailers. And if you want to build something that actually the users love, you must understand who they are and what do they actually need. Otherwise, you won't satisfy their needs and they go to another product. So who are they is very crucial question. What do they like? What do they need? What they want? How do they actually behave? And what, for example, motivates and frustrates them? And there are actually different methodologies that you can actually go and actually find out what are those sort of like, who are your customers? And they can be divided in qualitative and quantitative research methods. So the x-axis here is about the qualitative versus quantitative. And then we also have the y-axis thinking about like, okay, people may actually think about something, what do they actually say? But then there is another end, what do people actually do? So methodologies of understanding users can be divided into this kind of like matrix. So for example, if you think about some qualitative methods that study behaviors of the users, how do people actually behave? Then we can, for example, do some observations. We can go and see how users, for example, use our products in real life. We can do some usability testing. And then if we, so for example, want to think about like, how do they actually think about our products? We can have some interviews, we can have some group interviews, focus groups, and then we can also, for example, have diary studies where users use the product and then they actually write down what do they actually think about the product. So those were sort of like qualitative methods. And if we would think about the quantitative methods, then I think it's For example, customer support data analysis is one of the key tools, understanding like how do our people actually, what are the pain points of our users? How do they actually, for example, what are the reasons that they actually contact the customer support? We can do some email surveys, so we can get actually more quantitative data. We can ask about some stuff and then come up with sort of like trends. And if we are really working on the want to understand like how do users actually use our product, what are those quantitative measures? We can do some A/B testing, or for example, in-app or site traffic analysis, so we can actually see how users use the product. So those are the different methodologies. I have some examples here. The first one is the usability test, and I took one small video here. This is a concept that we worked at the beginning of Corona times, actually. And before we actually went into implementation, we interviewed people using a prototype. So we showed them a prototype in the mobile app, and we interviewed and wanted to find out if this concept would actually make sense for them, or if they would actually understand how to use that specific feature that we were sort of like planning to go to develop with. And here is a small slot of that interview.
Yeah, it's not very clear how to move back in the app. I think I would choose either search or discovery. Yeah, I would like to have like a button in the bottom that says like maybe discover other cities or something, because it's when it says discovery, I would think that okay, maybe I would get a map over Stockholm again, or
yeah. So as you could hear from that video, there was the user saying that I don't know how to go back, and that's a clear sign for us that okay, we need to work on this. We need to make this better so that users actually understand how to go back. And the other one was that they are talking about when they looked at some of the text in the app, that they could actually see, for example, a map from that. And that's not what actually happened from that specific location on the app. So again, it was something that we need to change. And usability tests are really good for product teams, because you may actually think about sort of like products when you are making and you have a good intention to actually make it easy to use. But when somebody outside the team actually looks at something you have done, it may actually not make so much sense for them. So it's very good to sort of like try to find out those problems before actually making those products, because then it's more expensive to fix them. One of the other methodologies I said there was that you can go to the sort of like the use place of your product and actually observe some of the users using your products. And here we are visiting McDonald's. We had a new restaurant app that we wanted to test. And again, it was not fully released yet, but it was further away from the concept. So we had already done some user testing for the concept, but this was already a situation where they could actually try sort of like the tool in the sort of like pilot phase in their restaurant. And there we actually asked them to use that tool for a while, and we were observing and asking more questions in a real usage situation to understand, like, because we are doing this product in the office or in our sort of like engineering team, so when we don't actually so well understand like what happens actually in the McDonald's, for example, kitchen. What are the things that actually matter for them? How should our products support that? So yes, based on these discussions, we had several restaurants that we visited. We actually figured out that okay, there were some few tweaks that we still wanted to do for the app before actually launching it wider to the wider audience. Similar methodology, but in this one, it's called shadowing, and it's again like observing and trying to understand what is the real usage situation. And in this situation, couriers were actually the app, and they were using the actual app, because we wanted to know how can we improve the existing app that we had. So people actually joined some of the courier partners doing the deliveries, and they were observing how they actually used the app, and also asking like, okay, does that work for you? What would you need in that situation? And yeah, that's one of the sort of like methodologies to get this qualitative data, how people actually use our products and what do they think about them. And then, of course, I mentioned that we can also collect very much quantitative data. This is one concept that we actually also followed we decided to sort of like release it in sort of like small markets at the time. And we were seeing, like, for example, how the conversion rates in that app were performing in different sort of like views. When did people actually drop out when they were searching something? What was the view that they actually, for example, found what they were looking for, and how they actually continued from that, or did they go to another view after that? So you can go into really specific quantitative data also when trying to understand your user behaviors. We also have, we follow quite a lot this eat your own dog food principle. I don't know if you are familiar with that term, but it means that use your own products and understand through that, like, how does it actually work? Or is there something that we could actually improve in that? Well, we order a lot with Wolt, of course, and sometimes we also order with competitors because we want to see how do they also work. And in addition to that, we organize this kind of like delivery days where people can actually be a courier partner for a day or half a day, and they can actually do the deliveries. In the Wolt market, you can go and have these picking days where you actually go to get those order-specific things and put them in the bag to be delivered for the consumers. And then you can also join these support work days where you can do some support work and understand, like, how do people, what are the problems that actually come to the support table during the daytime. So yes, eating your own dog food is very important in understanding your users. All right, I'm coming to my last and fourth tenet, and this is how to build lovable products. I think that the key issue is also create this delightful and sometimes even surprising user moments. And how to actually build those kind of like delightful moments is, first of all, you have to understand them, like we discussed in the previous slides, so that you can actually build products that they like. So they must be easy to use, they must be intuitive, they must be visually appealing and engaging. And we have to sort of like think about all the touch points of the product. So when the user first time uses the product until they have, for example, used it for a year or two. So you have to understand all of those touch points when designing products. And we think that Wolt has two superpowers in this design field on building delightfulness, and they are motion design and then Easter eggs. And motion design, I said earlier that we have put quite a lot of effort on that at Wolt, and it can be used in several different ways. Here is an example where it was used to actually enhance the user experience. So it's a sort of like feature that we are experimenting at the moment, and we are introducing this new part that is on top of the app, and you can see them jumping a bit, the icons there, when they actually come to the screen. So the idea being that if it's a new feature for the user, their attention goes to seeing those icons that are jumping there, because they actually give some motion to them, so they actually can enhance the user experience in there. We can also make complex information more understandable through motion design. Here is one example: when you actually order something and you want to, for example, define different options or the number of those items that you are ordering with, you are using this plus and minus counter at the bottom of the screen. And here you can see the small motion when the number actually jumps up when you actually click that, so that you can actually understand that, yes, my click went through, I can see that the number is there, and it actually makes it more easier for user to understand that, okay, this is the way it works. And then motion design can be also used for fun, engaging, and entertaining purposes. Here is one screen I took from our app. So if you, for example, go to this view where there's nothing for you at the moment, we just added the cat in the back, because who wouldn't love seeing cat peeking out of the back? So yeah, just entertaining, nothing to do with actual functionality as such. The other superpower that I think Wolt has is easter eggs. Here you can tip the courier on the Wolt app. And if you go above a bit higher level, then you can actually see Juho coming there. Let's have a look at it again because it was a bit quick. So if you give €2, you will get some hearts. But if you go a bit higher, you can actually meet the playful Juho in the screen. So that is also like Easter eggs. So those are the features that are usually hidden. So one actually needs to find them. We don't make it obvious that there's this thing. And our most famous Easter egg is going to be on the next slide. And it's been there for many years. And it's when you actually have ordered something, you can see the order tracking view. And if you click on that, I can see some notes there. Yes, you have found that. And then you can actually click that. And if you go above some limit, you can actually get a free delivery. So this is what the order tracking view looks like. And then you can start tapping. And then if you go above some number, then you can actually win a free delivery from there. It's an expensive feature for us, we must say that. But it's also bringing a lot of back to us because people are talking about it. There's even people making videos. How can you beat the record by using some tools? Don't use them. Don't look at them. No, go ahead. So, but anyway, so it gives us the sort of like publicity. People are like excited about this kind of like thing. So although we can't see that like straight value in doing something like that, it actually makes sense because it makes people happy. And then they, for example, can share that on social media and things like that. I'm coming to the end of my talk. The key takeaways I had in mind for this session was that how to actually build lovable products. I think these 4 topics make actually the good environment for doing that. So first of all, I think that we have to have diverse and multidisciplinary teams to be able to actually come up with nice solutions. I also think that it's very important that teams feel that they are trusted and they have the ownership of all the solutions and problems that they are solving in building the products. And then, of course, I think we must obsess with our end users, whatever the product is, whether it's a courier product or consumer product or whatever, you always have to understand what are the users actually wanting and needing and how do they feel about the product that they are using. And then I think our superpower is creating these delightful user moments, which are sometimes surprising, and especially the motion design awesome folks who are building that in our team are the ones who are doing that. I think next we could take some questions and have discussion. Do we have some questions on chat? Isabel, could you help me?
Yes, so thank you so much, Annu-Maaria. We have a couple of questions. Let's start first with online and then move into the audience here. Well, firstly, we have, how can Annu-Maaria be so awesome? But
that must be a colleague of mine.
Potentially. So the next one is, what has been your favorite part of working at Wolt?
Yeah, I think for me as a designer, it's been that, as I mentioned, I have been here for 5 years already. And the company has gone from a quite small one into this big sort of like company owned by a US company and all that. So for me, the best part has been that I started working with some products. I've been changing to some other teams to working with some products. And now on the consumer side, I'm solving different sort of like problems. And for me, the most engaging thing at Wolt is that there's always new problems to be solved because the business is growing. We are going into different sort of like markets. We are supporting different sort of like businesses in our products. So there's always new problems. I'm not getting sort of like bored at working at Wolt because I can always solve some new problems, and problem solving is something that I love.
Awesome. So the other question that we have is, what tools or forms are good for portfolio?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we have seen, I've been doing quite a lot of recruiting also in the past few years. I think that, yeah, some people use the websites, and of course that requires quite a lot of sort of like work to actually build those. So I think that they are of course nice, but also like simply, I think that what I look from the portfolio is not actually the format as such, but it's more like how do you actually describe the design process? How do you actually define like what is the problem that I'm solving here, and how do I actually solve that? So understanding that thinking process behind that portfolio is more important to me personally than actual the format of the portfolio. So maybe that's my answer. No specific requirement on that, only understanding the thinking.
Awesome. So if anyone else online has any more questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A, but anyone here, I will give you the mic. Anyone has any questions?
Thank you very much. It's very, very impressive, especially with your previous career being a geologist. My question is the beginning phase of this, where this type of product needs to have a certain amount of restaurants, merchants, and delivery people, and sort of like you need to come to a critical mass before you can be a business. How did you get to that? And then do you have like, how do you recruit restaurants?
Yeah, we may have some restaurant people here who would be actually better in answering this one, but I think it's the local operational teams who are actually sort of like the crucial for this. So we have always had those local teams, and I think that's the key. So you have to understand like what is happening in your sort of like area. You can't do that sort of like centralized in a HQ, for example. You have to go to the actual location. You have to have people there understanding what is the situation, what is working and what is not, and then sort of like adjusting that to that specific location where we operate. So I think all that goes to operational teams more. But then, of course, product can help in that. If we go to some market, for example, and we realize that, okay, for example, here to operate, we need this and that type of like solutions or features, then we sometimes have to work on those also for specific local markets on the product side also. So I think it's a combination of that, those operational teams and then product supporting those efforts that we have in different countries, for example.
Anyone else who has questions here in the audience? Yep.
Hey, thank you for the talk. That was really interesting. So my question would be, so you mentioned about how user testing and that kind of using data to adapt a product or develop a product. How in a typical workflow would that take place? Kind of what's the feedback cycle when developing a new aspect of the product?
Yeah, I think it depends quite a lot what you are actually doing. So you may be realizing that, for example, you are interviewing sort of like existing customers and you realize that, okay, there is a problem that we need to solve based on that we have some interviews already doing with them. So I think that's sort of like the first place to understand the problem from that phase. I think the second part is like, if you, for example, decide that, okay, we will have this business goal that we want to sort of like solve, and then you come up with some ideas of the design, for example, and then you can have this kind of like quick and dirty, for example, evaluations like, okay, am I going anywhere even near to that direction that our users would want to? So you don't have to actually do anything very advanced design, for example, on that. But once you get some certainty about that, okay, maybe this is the direction we should go, then you can go into more fidelity of those products. So for example, prototypes, and then you have more sort of like actual usage of the product, for example, if you can support some of those in the prototype. And then I think, yeah, some before you actually release the product, then you can have like bigger audience actually really using the product. And I think one sort of like tool that we also use at Wolt is quite interesting to me, because we can actually release our products for employees also for testing. So our first sort of like actual test before going live is often like our own people using the products and giving the feedback and being the Wolt users also ourselves. it makes sense in some way. So I would say that, yeah, you have to have those different sort of like fidelity of the prototypes, depending on what part of the sort of like process are you solving and where is the problem coming from. Did I answer your question?
Anyone else who has questions in the audience?
Yeah, thanks for an interesting presentation. You mentioned there's about over 30 designers in your team, and then multiple different products. So are all of them always working on one product, or is there some circular? Do they change products or teams or?
Yeah. So I think most of our product designers, they have a responsibility area. So for example, in our consumer group, we have people who are working with search, for example, as a designers. And then we have people who are working with some other parts of the, for example, how we show the menu cards, for example, on the app. And so they have like the ownership again. That's related to ownership thing that I was talking. So somebody owns that design part of that specific area, but then they can also work on some other parts whenever needed. So and work as a group also inside this kind of like group. So basically, for example, we are divided in a way that we have consumer design team who's working on consumer related features, but they have their own specific ownership in some parts of the app. But then we have these motion designers, for example, and researchers and UX writers, and they are not so team specific. They are a bit more horizontal. So they are like supporting different teams and different sort of like groups in the team. So, but you asked also about can they actually change the team? Yes, I think that I'm a good example of that. It's already my 5th team. So I started on the operational tools side, and when I joined Wolt, and then I have been working with the merchant tools, the restaurant app that I was showing also in one of the slides, and then also some of our, for example, other operational tools side, and now finally on the Wolt app side. So I think that's also something that I love in Wolt, because you can go to direction that actually motivates and you are interested about, because there's so many things that we are working with. So it's definitely possible to change the teams also, but in general, you have the ownership of one product area at the time.
Anyone else in the audience? Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. I have a question about these user moments. Well, you showed us only those for consumers, but what about merchants or delivery guys? Do you have something for them in their apps?
Yeah, so that I was actually thinking about it before this presentation. My examples are from the consumer side, because I work on the consumer side mostly, and I didn't want to bother my merchant side of, for example, designer friends. But I must say that the emphasis goes on the consumer side, to be honest. So we have, of course, people working on the merchant app, for example, interactions and sort of like animations to make that also delightful experience from that point of view. But the most of the effort goes on the consumer side, because that's part of the business. So yeah, but we want to keep everyone. We want to really like every user, whether it's our operational tool user or whether it's merchant or anyone courier. It's very important, because if they don't like, if for example couriers didn't like the products that we use, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have a business to run. So we have to make the products also everyone for delightful. So yeah.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Well, for merchants, who does the updating of the content? Do they do it themselves, or you give support?
So I think we do that mostly ourselves. Merchant people, yes, somebody's nodding there. Yes, we do it, yes. And then also we have some merchant self-service tools also. But to actually, I think it's part of the related to, we want to sort of like provide the users with a good selection, because it's part of the business again. If there isn't enough menu items, for example, in menu, then people are not getting excited about the menu. So we have to also like make sure that that is working. It's collaborative, right? Yes, yes, notes there.
Awesome. So then we have one more question online about the product life cycle. I was wondering about the start of the process and problem-based approach. So is it so that the first version of the product is existing when you step in? If so, what are the typical inputs you expect to get from the product design phase?
So did I understand the question correctly, that usually you have like existing product that you want to solve the problem from?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. Okay, then I don't think that is always the case. We are also building like new products all the time. So it's not only like an old existing product that we want to work with. So we also have situations where need to work, for example, Wolt Market. Yang is here on the audience. He has been working on Wolt Market. And I think that is, for example, a sort of like business area where we didn't have sort of like products and we are building everything from the scratch. So yeah, I think that, what was the continuation of the question?
The first version of the product is existing when you step in. If so, what are the typical inputs you expect to get from the product design phase?
Yeah, I actually have that on the slide. I didn't go into details of that, but if we are working with on a sort of like problem, we, for example, come up first with sort of like UX concepts. So those are the sort of like high level things that you can have, and then we go into more detail into defining like how would the user interface actually look like, and then we have that prototyping and user testing and detailed specs, like how does this user flow, for example, go in that product. So yeah, I think those are the typical sort of like outputs of the design phase.
Awesome, thank you. I hope we answered your question, Elina.
I'm not sure either.
We have time for one more question, if there's anything. Yes.
Thank you for the amazing keynote. You mentioned that like diversity and inclusion is really important in your teams, but how does that reflect in your products? For example, when you go to these different markets, how might they differ or take into account sort of different demographics or markets, etc.?
Yeah, very good question. I think by having those diversity teams, we can actually come up with products. But we, for example, operate in Japan at the moment, and the culture is quite different. For example, what we have in Finland, there are some similarities, and then there are, of course, differences. And actually, we realized at some point that we have to have the product team also there to actually make sort of like sure that we actually also serve the cultural needs, the differences that there are. So usually we are sort of like trying to build the product in a way that it works in all the markets, but we have to sort of like take this local also approaches in some cases. And Japan is a good example of that. I was mentioning that we have our own designer also in Japan. So people who actually really understand the culture and can make something that makes sense in that market. So yeah, I think that's the way to do it also in some cases.
Well, thank you, Annu-Maaria. So maybe we can wrap up the Q&A part. And I believe you had something.
Yes,
left.
I have one slide here from Isabella, so I'm going to share it now. So we have our engineering internships opening, and you can apply them now. They are usually 4 to 6 months long, and they are starting in March to June, so you can decide the duration and start of the internship, and then you can join in Helsinki or Berlin. And our internships are always paid. They are not free work. We have a mentor supporting all these internships that we have at Wolt, and we also want people to stay after the internship. So it's not only for that internship period that we are looking for people. So if you are interested, please apply. We would love to get some new people working with us. I had another one from Isabel. That is, this is part of the Mimmit Koodaa session, this event series. And there's 2 more sessions coming. So first of all, there is this Learn to Explore Problems with MVPs. So if you are interested about that, it would be in February 2nd. And that's actually in-person workshop also. So that sounds very interesting. We also have another one coming, Learn to Build Quality Products. And you can join that either in person at Wolt office and also online. And that would be on March 17th. So you can sign up on Mimmit Koodaa website if you are interested about those. That's it. Thank you, everyone.